So we give praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. We'll start in the 5th chapter of John and the 39th verse, and it says, "Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that ye have not the love of Elohim in you." So for him to turn around and say that he knows that the people don't have the love of Elohim in them, we need to look at something. And we're going to look at Deuteronomy 27 and 11. Let me see what 11 say. For him to know something, that means he would have to know the secret parts of a man, or the things that are hidden in a man. Make it verse 9. Deuteronomy 27 and 9. And it says, "And Moses and the priest, the Levites, spake unto all Yasharal, saying, Take heed and hearken, O Yasharal. This day thou art become the people of Yahuwah thy Elohim. Thou shalt therefore obey the voice of Yahuwah thy Elohim, and do his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day." And Moses charged the people the same day, saying, "These shall stand upon Mount Gerizzim to bless the people, when you are come over Jordan, Simeon and Levi and Yehuda and Issachar, Joseph and Benjamin." Hello? Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, Barry. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Hello? Shalom, how you doing, bro? How you doing, young lady? Let me see something here. Let me see what the name of this mountain means in Deuteronomy 27 and 12. I'm sorry about y'all for on the short notice to y'all, but that's my bad. Hold on, y'all. Somebody calling me from Yulee. Hello? Hello? Man, this nigga calling me talking about you an employment specialist on a recorded line, calling me at 7 o'clock at night. Man, these people, man, I was trying to handle business yesterday, right? So in between of that, right, somebody called me talking about going to school. You know what I'm saying? All this stuff. So I'm entertaining them while I'm in between calls. Then a call come in to handle some business. I say, "Ma'am, I must take this call. I am a business owner, and this is a business call." Do you know these things called me consistently for about 20 to 30 minutes, man? Bite to bite.
You should go to school?
Man, I ain't trying to go. I don't even know how to, you know how you be, man, I might be filling out something online for something else, man, and they get your information and they want to start calling. Man, I already told you, I ain't planning on going to school no time soon. Then I tell you.
I want to take you a class.
Then I tell you.
Living with white people.
Man, I don't want to, and I ain't with all that stuff, man, because it's just waste time. Now, when we look at this mountain, right, it means cutting off. So it says, "These shall stand upon Mount Gerizzim," or the mountain of cutting off, "to bless the people, when ye are come over Jordan, Simeon and Levi, Judah, Issachar, Joseph and Benjamin, and you shall stand upon Mount Ebal." So then we're going to sit back and we're going to look at Mount Ebal. And we're going to see what that means. And we're going to rock it like that. So give me a second. Pull that back up. So now we're going to, if you sit back and you remember, Jordan means descend. So he said when you stand upon the mountain that's cut off and you descend, all the tribes will come over. Excuse me. Let me get what we want here. He said, then you'll stand upon Mount Ebal. And when we stand upon Mount Ebal, we see that this is a stone or a bare mountain, or a mountain of cursing that these people on, because they standing on these mountains as forth as a curse, because he's about to read some curses to them. As a matter of fact, we'll probably just read all the curses that's in here so we can get a better understanding. So I'm going to start at verse 9 again. Matter of fact, I'll start at verse 8, and we'll do it like that. It says, "Thou shalt write upon the stones all the words of this Torah very plainly. Moses and the priests, the Levites, spake unto all Yasharal, saying, Take heed and hearken, O Yasharal. This day thou art become the people of Yahuwah thy Elohim. Thou shalt therefore obey the voice of Yahuwah thy Elohim, and do his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day." Moses charged the people the same day, these shall stand upon Mount Gerizzim to bless the people. So these particular tribes are going to stand upon the mounting of cutting off, and they're going to increase the people. When you come over Jordan, so we have Simeon. Simeon means Yah's heard me and or hated, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check that. Don't want to say the wrong thing. I want to say it's hated. But let's just make sure. When we look at the cuttings off. So we turn around and we look at Simeon. That means I was hated. Now we sit back and we look at this one here. Now we got Levi, which is joined, and Yehuda, which is praise, Issachar, which is Elohim have given me my hire, Joseph, which is Elohim have taken away my reproach, and Benjamin, which is the son of my right hand. These are the ones standing on the mountain to bless the people of the mountain of cutting off. So then when we look at verse 13, and it says, these shall stand upon Mount Ebal to curse. So he says these tribes will stand to curse. They'll stand on the curse. So again, you're looking at something, you're seeing blessings and cursings in this instance. Now, Ebal means to make bare. So then we look at Reuben, which means Elohim have heard me of my affliction, if I'm not mistaken. As Elohim is looking upon me in my affliction. We have Gad, which is true. We have Asher. I ain't looked at Asher in a long time. Let me pull that there. Let's have a look at this. Y'all give me a second. I loaded up because I loaded on that page. Let's see. Well, you know, Dan means judge, so we already got that one now. No, Asher's not a tribe gets spoke about too tough. And it just seems to just escape right now. Hello. Asher means blessed. Hello. So, yes, sir. So we're looking at Reuben means Elohim look at me in my affliction. Gad is the truth. Asher is blessed. Zebulon is dwell. Dan is judge. And Naphtali is increased, or is prevail. And saying the Levites shall speak and say unto all the men of Yasharal with a loud voice, cursed be the man that make any graven or molten image, an abomination unto Yahuwah, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and put it in a secret place, and the people shall answer and say, so be it. So he say, any man that takes an abomination and puts it in a secret place, the work of the craftsman, he'll be cursed. Now we're gonna look at this before we read the rest of these things that are in here. We're gonna try to get a little bit of understanding. So we're gonna sit back and look at those that stand upon the mountain of cutting off to bless the people. First is hated. So I need to look at something first. Just hold the Deuteronomy 27 because we're going to be working with that. Look at Isaiah 53. Isaiah 53 and about verse 5. Well, actually about 4. Isaiah 53 and 4. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgression, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray, we have turned every one to his own way, and you have laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from the prison and from judgment. Who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken. So we're sitting back looking at that. Reuben means to be hated. Now we sitting back and realize it said this man was stricken. He was smitten of Elohim, wounded for our transgression. We didn't read the verse before that. He despised, he's rejected of men as he stands upon the mountain that is the dealing with being cut off. So when you look at being cut off, how are we going to look at being cut off? You're going to have to be hated or rejected of men for this to even happen. So let's look at 1 Thessalonians chapter 2, about verse 13. Now you're sitting back looking at all these things going to have to apply to this curse that's standing on this mountain. or the blessing, my apologies, that's on this mountain. It's going to have to apply to that. It's going to have to line up with that. So we look at Hamashiach's death being a blessing to the people, because he said, at this day you'll become the people of Elohim. And he set certain tribes on one mountain meaning cut off, and he put these particular tribes here. And he also said coming over to Jordan to descend, because once he was cut off from the land of the living, he descended into the grave and then ascended out of the grave. And we'll sit back and read that, to give gifts unto men. First Thessalonians chapter 2, I want to say about verse 13. He said, for this cause also we think, we'll make it 12, that you will walk worthy of Elohim, who have called you unto his kingdom and his esteem. You know, we started off in the law right there in Deuteronomy 27. He said to take heed to yourself, because this day you have become the people of Elohim. So we would need to sit back and realize that we would most definitely and most certainly need to look at, we need to take heed to ourselves. And everything that we do, that we walk worthy of what this man has called us for. That's why he told you to take heed and listen. A lot of times we don't take heed, and therefore that's why we have a lot of issues and problems when it comes down to things, and we're not walking worthy of his kingdom. You know what I'm saying? You have to sit back and look at, are you doing the things that's necessary for his kingdom? I got a matter which I bring up with everybody just because something I was talking to somebody about, some information they done brought up. And then I was telling them at the time that that's a strong matter. But we also need to make sure that in everything that our hearts are correct. Like brother just called me about, he was like, you know, the Most High. Well, and we're going to try to look at some of that, Most High willing. When Hamashiach spoke words, it always resonated and stung the people. And it usually stung them because it was the sins that they were hiding in the secret places and the recesses of their heart that weren't necessarily visible. You know what I'm saying? And we don't sit back and we don't realize is that when this is occurring, it's to purge these things out of there, because a lot of times people have drawn up and they've made idols, the works of a craftsman, which means it's the work of their own doings, the lust of their own heart. You know what I'm saying? Going after their own way, and they hide them in the secret places of their heart, because this is what they actually serve. This is what they actually go after, and it's what destroys them. And it's what allows the curse to be upon them, because for all intents and purposes, they got idols in their heart. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to hide these things from view so no one can't see them. And you're forgetting that the Most High sees all things. And what some of the things we're going to be looking at is, this is a little different than when you say the things that you do in the dark could come to the light, like a necessarily an action that you've done. But the things that you hide in your heart, the Most High will bring them out so they can be seen. So that you can sit back and look at what will you do with them when it's manifested. Because that's why we have been talking about the weightier matters of the law the last few weeks, because your heart has to be right. You know what I'm saying? Your heart has to be right. Your heart has to be on point. The other stuff will fall right in line. If you love Elohim with all your heart and all your strength and all your might and all your soul, then it's going to be nothing for your heart to fall right in line with the weightier and the lighter matters of the law. You know what I'm saying? But we don't want to mess around and be like the scribes and Pharisees were, where we were so strong on the lighter matters of the law that we forsake the weightier matters. We want to have a just and even balance with both of them, so that they can both meet in agreement at the same time, that we can get the fullness and the richness of Elohim to be quickened to life everlasting. So we read verse 13, for this cause also we thank we Elohim without ceasing, because when you received the word of Elohim, which you heard of us, you received it not as the word of men, but as it is, in truth, the word of Elohim, which effectually worked also in you that believe. For you, brethren, became followers of the synagogues of Elohim, which are in Yehuda, are in Mashiach Yahusha. For you also have suffered the like things of your own countrymen, even as they have of the Yahudim, who both killed the master Yahusha and their own prophets, and have persecuted us, and they please not Elohim, and are contrary to all men, forbidding us to speak to the Gentiles, that they might be saved, to fill up their sins always. For the wrath is come upon them from the uttermost. This is why he turned around and told you to take heed, and this is why he's got he's got Simeon on the blessed side. Because let's look at what Mashiach tell you in Luke chapter 6 and verse 23. It's a blessing to be hated. That's what he put on up there. It was a blessing to be hated. That's what he put on the mountain of cutting off. You sit back and look at it, the word Elohim will sanctify you and cut you off from other people. That's actually a blessing. 6 and 22, my apologies. Luke 6 and 22. It says, "Baruch are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company, and shall reproach you, and cast your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Rejoice ye in that day, and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in Shamahim, for in the like manner did their fathers unto the prophets." And you turn around and look at it, the people before time, they hated all the prophets. They wanted to kill all of them. They wanted to kill all of them because, matter of fact, look at 2 Chronicles 20 and 20. Just keep a place in Deuteronomy 27. It doesn't mean that we're going to go directly to it, but that's the starting point for this evening. So it says that's 2 Chronicles 20 and 20. Let me see. Now to see what we want. See, 2 Chronicles 20 and 20. Then there's something else, and we work our way to that. Just go on this big and off what Paul said. Paul said, "You didn't believe us as of men," and get you Isaiah 7 and 9 too, along with it. He said, "You didn't believe it as of men." He said, "You believed it as it was the words of Elohim, as you should." He said, "They rose early in the morning and went forth into the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went forth, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, O Yehuda, and ye inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in Yahuwah your Elohim, so shall you be established. Believe his prophets, so shall ye prosper." And when he had consulted with the people, he appointed singers unto Yahuwah, that they should praise the beauty of Kadesh, as they went out before the army to say, Praise Yahuwah, for his mercy endure forever. So you see the key thing as he sat down and he appointed with the people. You see praise, that's what Yehuda means. And we'll sit back and see him showing praise when he's up on the mount about to be cut off in the same fashion. You know what I'm saying? He'll show you that, or show you that you can sit back and you can get the blessing or get the increase. But he told you need to believe Yahuwah Elohim so you can be built. Now, most I willing is going to work because I've been wanting to talk about the house since a long time, and we haven't really got to it in the fashion that I would have liked to. And most I willing, we can be able to get back to that, because Psalms 127:1 say, "Unless the builders build by Yahuwah, they build in vain. They are established for nothing." When he tell you to believe his prophets, he's sitting back telling you that's the same thing Mashiach said. He said, "He that received me, received him that sent me, and whoever received whomsoever I send, received me." And I said it actually backwards. "And whosoever received me, received him that sent me." So he's telling you, if you receive those whom he sent, then you can be able to be established and be built and actually be fitly framed as a stone in the house, in the body of Mashiach. That's what we're sitting back looking after. And when you're sitting back looking at to be able to get that increase, one of the first things is you're going to be hated. This is why we'll get to it. Look at Isaiah 79, and then we'll look at John 15 and 19. Make it 7 and 7. "Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, it shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Gerizzim. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. And if you will not believe, surely you shall not be established." Now we know Ephraim means Elohim has been, I've been fruitful in my affliction. And he said he that will be fruitful in his affliction will be broken. Well, you know, Hamashiach was broken down. You know what I'm saying? He came down and they killed him. Then he said, let's look at Remaliah. We dealt with this a long time ago. Real long time ago. Well, let's see what his name is. Because he said, if you don't believe that, then you'll be broken. And it says Remaliah is, he says, is protected by Yahuwah. This is what his name means. So he says, the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. The head of Samaria is him that is protected of Elohim. Even when you turn around and you look at what Mashiach went through, he was protected of Elohim when he resurrected him, even though it seemed that what he went through is as if as Yah had departed from him. Let's get this Samaria real fast. And that means watch mountain. So it's sitting back there. He that is fruitful in his affliction is the head of the watch mountain. And the head of Watch Mountain is him that's protected of Yahuwah. And if you would not believe that, you would not be built. Consider that we're looking at they're standing upon a mountain, that means to be cut off. Let's look at Matthew 26. I got to pull it up on the app because I ain't got the page. Matthew 26 and probably about 36. Listen what he says here in verse 36. Then come Yahushua with them unto a place called Gerizzim, and saith unto his disciples, Sit ye here while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith he unto them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch with me. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. And he come unto his disciples and found them asleep, and saith unto Peter, What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray that you enter not into temptation. The ruach indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. So you sit back and you look at him that's protected of Elohim, or of Yahuwah, is upon Watch Mountain. When he comes up into this place, he's coming up into this place for his disciples to watch. Since we already here, let's back it up just a little bit, and we can go ahead and get Yahuwah out of this before we even go any further. Let me find the verse that I want. We just stay in 26. We ain't got to go no further. I wishing my page wasn't gone. Because you know when they got up out of there and they got finished doing what they're doing, right here in about verse 29, make it 28 of Matthew 26, they began to sing praise. So that's why you see on the mountain of cutting off, you see him that is hated, and then you see praising. He said, For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. So now we see him praise on the mountain of cut off. Let's look at John 15 and 19 before we go any further. When you sit back and you look at it and you're going to come upon the mountain of blessing, the high praises of Elohim going to have to be in your mouth, and you're going to be hated. But in all this aspect and process, you know that Elohim will increase you. John 15 and 18 actually. If the world hates you, know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world will love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said unto you, the servant is not greater than his master, and if they persecuted me, they will persecute you. If they have kept my saying, they will keep yours also. But all these things will they do unto you for my name's sake, because they know not him that sent me. This is why he told you to take heed and hearken, because this day you become the people of Elohim. And when you become the people of Elohim, the people who come unto you, they will not know the person who has sent you, the person who has birthed you. So therefore, to get that increase, you're going to have to take this hatred on. That's just a part of the process. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 27. So we look at another tribe that was up there, right, in the 27th chapter, and we look at Levi, and we look to be joined. So when we look to be joined to Yahushua, we look at something has to happen. So let's look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and about verse 16. You get around that to it. 6 and 16. It says, what agreement have the temple of Elohim with idols? For you are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim has said, I will dwell in them, and I will walk in them, and I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith Yahuwah, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith Yahuwah Almighty. So now you're sitting back looking at it again to get the increase. He's going to have to be joined. He's going to have to be in you. You know, as he told you, he said, abide in me, and I in you, and you will bring forth much fruit. He said, for without me, you can do nothing. So to get that increase again, this man you have to become one with him. Let's look at something in Titus 2 and 12 as it comes to that. To become one with Elohim, this is what we're going to have to start looking at. Make it 2 and 11. Titus 2 and 11. He said, for the grace of Elohim that brings salvation have appeared to all men. That's what they were seeing on the mountain. Deuteronomy 27, they were seeing the favor of Elohim. I done brought you out of these people. I done wrote all this law before the people. And all this here is to give you the favor of Elohim, that it could appear before all. Teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. That's what he was teaching them when they was in the wilderness. Looking for that blessed hope and the esteemed appearing of the great Elohim and our Savior Yahushua HaMashiach, who gave himself for us, and that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good work. You know, that's what he told us in Exodus 19. You know, this man gave himself when he showed you the similitude of the lamb. He showed you him purifying you when he turned around, when he took you through the Red Sea. And then he turned around and teach you that you should keep clear-minded and that you should live righteously and godly in that present world. Because he said, if you take heed to my commandments, you'll be a peculiar people upon all people that are upon the earth. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we turn around and we look at, and we get an understanding when we see these things about those that are upon the mountain that gets cut off. Because when you stand upon the mountain to get cut off, these are the things you're going to have to do. You're going to eventually have to be joined to HaMashiach. Hebrews 13. Hold on. Hebrews 13 and 18. And 18, that's actually 13 and 11. For the bodies of those beasts whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin are burnt without the camp. Wherefore Yahushua also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Let us go forth therefore unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach. For we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to Elohim continually, that is, the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. So that would be the offering of praise of Yahuwah going outside the camp. Noticing that he separated these tribes to put on the mountain of cutting off, which was the mountain of blessing, or increase, or Baruch, the mountain of Baruch. This is what this is dealing with. He said these tribes will sit on this mountain, which is for blessing. You understand what I'm saying? So you're seeing that Yahuwah again, he's saying offer the sacrifice of thanks. The fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name, or giving praise, or giving Yahuwah. You know what I'm saying? This is a blessing when you sit back and you realize you have separated yourself and put yourself outside the camp by the sacrifice by this man's body. By the sacrifice of this man's body, it allows you to be able to be joined unto him. Because he said we've been consecrated or set apart by a new and living way by this man's flesh. This man's flesh was able him to be sanctified in this new and living way. Why? Because he was cut off. He was cut off because he was hated. You turn around and you see him on the mountain drinking the blood, drinking the cup, preparing to be cut off because the people hated him. But even in the midst of that, he gave praise. So you sit back and look at, even in the midst of hatred, he still gave thanks to Elohim when he was about to die. So you turn around and you look at that, even in the midst of adversity, you still give thanks to Elohim. This is why Paul said we are more than conquerors through him that he loved. He said, yea, it is written, we are all like sheep for the slaughter. Yet we will continue to go forward in the midst of that because we will have no fear. He say, in Psalm 27, he said, man, Yahuwah is my light. I will not fear what man will do unto me. Therefore, there's no reason. That's why we talked about this the other day. Perfect love casts out fear. There's no need to have fear in your heart when your trust is in Elohim. Therefore, when you look at to take the increase, you're going to have to be taken to being hated by men. You're going to seek that in the midst of that, you'll seek to be joined by Elohim. You know what I'm saying? You'll seek to be joined to Elohim. You'll seek to walk with him, and he'll walk in you, and you become one with him. These are the things we have to sit back and look at. If we stand upon Mount Gerizzim, or the mountain of being cut off, and then we descend, then we know where we're going to sit back and look at something. Let's look at Ephesians 4 and 6, because that's the second time I said that. We turn around and we look at something. If we're going to be cut off and descend, then that means we know that we're going to die to descend into the grave. But when we descend up out of that grave, then we know we'll be joined to Elohim. He said we'll be put to death in flesh, but quickened by Ruach to forever live by Elohim. That's the goal. Make it about 4 and 7. He said, but in every one of us is given favor according to the measure of the gift of Mashiach. Wherefore he said, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive, and gave gifts unto men. Now he that is ascended, what is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the rats? He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above all Shamahim, that he might fill all things. So when you sit back and you look at it, him that's cut off on the mountain, as they go over, descend, he begins to mention these particular tribes that he put for the blessing. He put these particular tribes there for a reason. So we said before he could ascend up in the Shamahim, but far above all things, he had to descend in the earth. Before, like we were talking about on the Shabbat, when he said they heard that last trump and they ascended up. In order for us to ascend up above all Shamahim, we're going to have to descend. Meaning we're going to have to take that immersion to descend into death, to dying to sin, to live under Elohim, to no longer live the rest of our time in this flesh to the pleasures of the flesh or the will of men, but to the will of Elohim. This is what a Mashiach did. This is what we're going to have to turn around and do. We're going to have to descend. We're going to have to be cut off, and we're going to have to descend, or you're going to have to mortify your members. Since I said that, I want you to look at something in 2 Chronicles chapter 3. Just something real fast in 2 Chronicles chapter 3. Second Chronicles chapter 3, about verse 7. It says, he overlaid also the house, the beams, the posts, and the walls thereof, and the doors thereof with gold, and graved cherubims on the walls. And he made the Mokadesh house, the length whereof was according to the breadth of the house 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 20 cubits, and he overlaid it with fine gold, amounting to 600 talents. And he said, and the weight of the nails was 50 shekels of gold, and he overlaid the upper chambers with gold. And in the most Kadesh house he made 2 cherubims of image work, and overlaid them with gold. And the wings of the cherubims were 20 cubits long. One wing of one cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house, and the other wing was likewise 5 cubits, reaching to the wing of the other cherub. And one wing of the other cherub was 5 cubits, reaching to the wall of the house, and the other wing was 5 cubits also, joining to the wing of the other cherub. The wings of these cherubs spread themselves forth 20 cubits, and they stood on their feet, and their faces were inward. And he made the veil of blue and purple, and of crimson and fine linen, and wrought the cherubims thereon. So I just read that part with read down to the veil of blue, purple, crimson, and fine linen, because you know he put on the scarlet robe to be the red heifer. You know, they put a glorious robe on him in Luke 23, and you know that they put a purple robe on him. But what we came there for is he said the nails of the house were 50 shekels of gold. So he took the nails to fasten the house to keep it into place. And we had to turn around and look at, we're going to have to put the nails and fasten them in our houses to keep them in place, which is showing that we would mortify our members. Now, I'm reading this for a reason. Let's look at Colossians chapter 3 real fast, about verse 7. Because we know that when because remember, Masha said in John chapter 2, he spake of the temple of his body, and that he was the house. Just like we already read in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, he said that you are the temple of Elohim. When we read about the temple of Elohim and the gold, the nails that were placed in it, which were gold, which we know the trial of your faith is more precious than gold. So when you look at when he put in these nails in this man, that was a trial of his faith to know that he was about to be crucified. But it was more precious than gold what would come forth out of this, because this would be the increase if he stands up on the mountain of being cut off. When he stands up on the stake and he's put on that tree, he is upon the mountain of being cut off. And you'll sit back when you see him on the mountain of being cut off, how he would join the Elohim, how he praised Elohim, how he was hated by the people. And then we'll look at the other tribe that's upon that too. But I forgot what Colossians chapter 3 verse 7, verse 5. Make it 3 though. 3 and 3. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Mashiach and Elohim. When Mashiach, who is our life, shall appear, then shall ye also appear with him in esteem. Mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, fornication, uncleanness, inordinate affection, evil conspicuance, and covetousness, which is idolatry. For which things sake the wrath of Elohim come on the children of disobedience, in the which ye also walked sometime when you lived in them. But now you also put off all these, anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. Lie not one to another, seeing that you have put off the old man with his deeds, and have put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. When you turn around and you look at it, before Solomon built that house, he walked around in a portable tabernacle. But then he made a permanent place for him to dwell. So you sit back and look at it, I put off that old tabernacle and I made a new one. So we had to turn around and look at it in that same aspect. I need to put off the old tabernacle and make a new one. And I need to sit back and look at the nails that are in this are as gold. Trial of your faith. This man sat back and said, I'm exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. The Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of sinners. This man sitting back looking at, these people are about to nail me to a stake. He told his apostles, man, they're going to crucify me. They're going to nail me. Not even sitting back realizing that nails in him and that mortifying of his physical members would bring about a new body. A new man. A man not fashioned after the natural man, not fashioned after the things of a rat, but that fashioned after the things that are of Shamahim, the things that are eternal. And that's the pattern and framework that we would have to sit back and realize. I need to mortify my members, my desires, my wants that would take me outside the will of Elohim. I will crucify those things. I will kill those things, and I will put those things to the side. Let's look and sit back at how he gave praise. Let's look at Luke 24. I got this in my book. I think it's 24 and 5. I'm sorry, it's Luke 23 and 45. We'll look at 44. And 44. And it was about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over all their rats until the 9th hour, and the sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And when Yahushua cried with a loud voice, he said, Abba, into thy hands I commend my Ruach. And having thus said, he gave up the Ruach. Now you sit back and look at it. How many of y'all in the midst of that there was still give praise to your Elohim in the midst of being cut off? How many would be able to do that? How many would be able to stand that? How many would be able to endure that and suffer that? Not many people sit back and look. It's real easy to give thanks to Elohim when things are going well. But not many give thanks to Elohim when things are going bad. And this is what a Mashiach is sitting there. He said, I put my Ruach into your hands. Because my trust and hope is in thee. I will praise you until I leave here. I will praise you until I leave here. Now you know if already, really that's two birds with one stone. If he commends his hand into his Ruach, they are one Ruach. Hello? What's going on? They one Ruach if he say, I'm commending my Ruach into your hand. I'm one with you. While he's up there on the mountain or of cutting off. So we have to sit back and look at that. To be where Elohim, you're going to have to be separated from the world. It's one of the most difficult aspects that people have to deal with. And you're going to have to be separated from your flesh, from your own desires. Why he say his son in the likeness of sinful flesh to condemn sinful flesh in the flesh. Had to send this man in the flesh to cut the flesh off. To cut the flesh off, you're going to have to put the nails of gold in you, which means your faith is going to have to be tried. Because your faith is going to be taken through the furnace. It's more precious than gold. It's worth it, but you're going to have to be willing to say that I'm going to endure it and take it. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 27. I might not get to the cursed mountain tonight because I ain't trying to go too long. Most I will and just pick it up tomorrow and just continue on. So we look at Deuteronomy 27 again. So when we look at, we touch Simeon being hated, we touch Levi being joined, and we touch Yehuda being praised. So now we look at Issachar, which is Elohim is giving me my hire. So in order to be cut off, to stand upon the mountain, to bless the people, to be cut off, we'll finish these last three names because we know what it is and we'll run them down. Got Issachar, Elohim is giving me my hire. Joseph, Elohim is taking away my sin. And Benjamin, son of my right hand. So upon the mountain of blessing, this is what happens. We've sat back and you just seen him do that. So now we turn around and let's see how Elohim gave this man his hire. Let's look at Luke 1 and 36 or 34 and let's just see what his payment would be. Luke 1 and actually 30. It said, the Malachim said unto her, fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with Elohim. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Yahusha. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest. And you, Elohim, shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over the house of Jacob forever and ever, and of his kingdom there shall be no end. He said, there'll be no end of this kingdom. So we sit back and we look at, that's one of the things that he would be paid. Let's see, look at Matthew 16 and 20, and let's look at the other thing that he would be paid. Then he charged his disciples that they should tell no man that he was Yahushua the Mashiach. And from that time forth began Yahushua to show unto his disciples how that he must go unto Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes and be killed and be raised again the third day. So we see the other thing that he would pay him is that he would get the resurrection from the dead. So he would get a kingdom and he would live forever. These are things that he said he would pay him, among other things. Let's look at 2 Timothy chapter 2. Second Timothy chapter 2 and about verse 8. Make it 8. 2 Timothy chapter 2, I think I said 8. I was looking at 9 though. But I'll start at verse 7. 2 Timothy chapter 2 and about verse 7. You just act like you just got a hard life, boy. Consider what I say, and the master give thee understanding in all things. Remember that Yahushua HaMashiach of the seed of David was raised from the dead according to my preaching, wherein I suffer trouble as an evildoer, even unto bonds, but the word of Elohim is not bound. When you turn around and you look at it, right, he say, he is suffering trouble as an evildoer. Now this going right back to what we're looking at. on the mountain of being cut off, where the blessing would be given, he's treated as someone who's hated, because we know our law say, hate that, love that which is good, and hate that which is evil. They looked at Mashiach as being evil, therefore they hated him. You know, they say he was casting out demons by Beelzebub, and all these other things that they said about the man, calling him a sinner, a transgression. He hung with sinners. Though he was treated, he suffered as an evildoer. He suffered trouble as an evildoer. These people tried to stone him. I'm talking about before they even took him and crucified him. They wanted to stone him. They wanted to kill him. And all of these things. And he say, even unto bonds. Now, we're not going to go read it because you already know it. Mashiach suffered as an evildoer. He was locked up as a criminal. And they put him in bonds. But yet the word of Elohim was not bound, because it was not possible that the bands of death could keep it. Hold on, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to have to call back and start over again. Let's hold on a second. Hold on a second. All right, so he stated clearly, right? He said that he suffered trouble as an evildoer. We know Mashiach suffered trouble as an evildoer. He was locked up as a malefactor. The people said if he wasn't a malefactor, he wouldn't even be here. He was locked up as a common criminal. They put him in bonds and everything. But he said the word Elohim was not bond, because we know what Peter preached to them on Pentecost. He said even though the man was placed in the grave, he said it was not possible that he could be holding of it. He burst those bonds the same way that Samson burst his bonds. And you have to sit back and look at it. You may suffer trouble as an evildoer. That's why the man say they'll speak evil of you falsely for my name's sake. And you may suffer trouble as an evildoer, even under bond, but the word won't stop. Hold this 2 Timothy chapter 2. We come right back. And look what he told you in Revelation chapter 2 and about verse 5. I'm sorry, about verse 9. We'll look at verse 8. Second Timothy chapter 2 verse 8. I mean Revelation chapter 2 verse 8. I'm sorry. Hello? Hello? I can't hear you. Oh. And it says, the Malakim of the synagogue in Smyrna write, these things saith the first and the last, which is dead and alive. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Yahudim and are not, but the synagogue of Hashatan. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and that ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. He that have ear, let him hear what the Ruach saith unto the synagogues. He that overcomes shall not be hurt of the second death. Now you're sitting back looking at, he's on the mountain of being cut off. This is the blessing. So the blessing of Elohim is to actually be cut off from the land of the living. This man was cut off from the land of the living. And in the midst of being cut off from the land of the living, he gave praise as Elohim. And in the midst of being cut off in the land of the living to give praise unto his Elohim, he became one with his Elohim. Why he say, me and my Father are one. And they sought to stone him and kill him for this. He suffered trouble as an evildoer, but the word of Elohim was not bound. Even when they put him in fetters of iron and put the bonds on him, and they asked him, who are you? The word didn't stop because he was locked up. The word didn't stop because he suffered trouble as an evildoer. The word was still being manifest. How do we know the word was not bound? Bound because he still continued to fulfill the word even in the course of this. So we look at that, and this is the blessing. The blessing is to be joined to Elohim, to be with him forever, to be one with him, that he can walk in you, and that he can live in you, and that you can live in him. So in the midst of that, you will be cut off, and you will be hated. And while you're being hated, you ought to give praise to this man. That's why he said the sacrifice of give thanks to his name, when we read in Hebrews 13, suffering outside of the camp, taking on the reproach or the dishonor of being hated. Not a lot of people want to be able to take that on. See, because we begin in the month of Adar, which means glorious or esteemed. And you're not looking at to be cut off and to be hated of men is actually be esteemed of Elohim. Because you're rejected of men but received of Yahuwah. It's an esteemed thing to become one with him. It's an esteemed thing to give thanks to his name. And then you're sitting back looking at, in this midst of being esteemed, of being glorified, then you can overcome and be removed from the second death, that Elohim can give you your payment, which is a crown of life, which is to enter into a kingdom, which is to have your sins forgiven, which is he's talking about he gave himself for you to purify himself, a peculiar people, zealous, passionate to do all things right. Come on back to 2 Timothy chapter 2. Hello? Hello? What's going on? What's going on? So, you look at verse 9, verse 10. He said, therefore, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 10, therefore I endure all things for the elect's sake, that they also may obtain salvation, which is in Mashiach Yahushua with eternal esteem. It is a faithful saying, for if we be dead with him, we shall also live with him. And if we suffer, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he will also deny us. If we believe not, yet he abide faithful, he cannot deny himself. So, of these things put them in remembrance, charging them before the master, that they strive not about words to no profit, but to the subverting of the hearers. I think sometimes it's sitting back thinking about it. That's why I went ahead and read. I think some people thought that when we were talking with them gentlemen, we were striving with words of no profit. Now, I don't think it's people sitting back realizing that the things that we were bringing forth was to be gained to those that heard it, if they had an ear to hear, to catch and receive what was being spoken, because we just weren't speaking vain words. But then we sit back and look at, we're charging you to remember these things, that if you die with the man, you can live with the man. And if you suffer with the man, you can reign with the man. And since we're looking at Mount Gerizzim, which is dealing with being cut off, and we see the tribes that he put on there to be cut on the blessing side on this mountain, that means to be cut off. We sit back and look at, we see praise, joining the Elohim. Say, we'll sit back and look at those that are him that is hated will praise Elohim, therefore be joined to Elohim. Therefore, if he's joined to Elohim, hold on, because I'm going to just read it in exact order, because I'm trying to remember the order the tribes is written in, and I'm going to say them out of order. I don't want to say them out of order. So when I look at Deuteronomy 27:12, right, and we sit back and look at it, he says, so we look at the hated one is joined and praised, and Elohim gave him his payment, so he took away the sin, that you could be the son of his right hand. This is what happens, or the blessing on the mountain that's on Mount Gerizzim, which is the mountain of cutting off. And the mountain of cutting off was to bless the people, increase the people when they came over Jordan or came over descended. So to be cut off, the people got blessed when he descended. We've already read that when this man died, the people were blessed when he descended in the grave, because when after all this happened, is because he was be able to bless the people being cut off and descended in the grave because he was hated. We've already read that you blessed when you hated. Then it's coming back, because he was hated, he was able to become one with Elohim. And because of this, because he was hated and becoming one with Elohim in his supplication, he gave praise to him. And all of these things, now God has given him exactly what he told him he was going to give him if he went through these things, which was a kingdom and a resurrection of the dead and all things to be put in his hand. Then after this here, he said that this will allow the sin to be removed from the people, that you could be the son of my right hand. So then we turn around and we look at all these things as individuals. And we sit back and we go up upon that stake to be crucified with this man. And that means we'll be willing to descend in the grave to be dead with him. Therefore, if we descend in the grave to be dead with him, we can reign with him. That's why he said, if you be dead with him, you shall live with him. So if you go upon Mount Gerizzim to be cut off, then you will be dead with him. Then you will descend in the grave. When you will descend in the grave, that means if you'll suffer, you also reign with him. Because since you were willing to suffer because you were hated, if you were willing to suffer to be placed in prison, to be put in fetters of iron and bonds, even though the word of Elohim cannot be stopped, even in the midst of you being in the prison. Since I said that, look at Acts chapter 4 real fast. You sit back and you can think about Paul. Paul was in the prison, boy, that word ain't stopped. Actually, it's Acts chapter 12. 12 and 10. You sit back and look at it. Paul was locked up, man. That word ain't stopped while Paul was in prison. Yeah, he was in bounds. The word don't stop. Yeah, Mashiach was in bounds. The word didn't stop. You sit back looking at, well, he wasn't preaching. He was preaching. Just by the simple fact of him walking around fulfilling the book, him getting up on the stake, him dying. The word that he said, I thirst. Mother, look at thy son. Son, this is thy mother. All the things that he was doing. Them giving him the hyssop and the vinegar, fulfilling the book. The word didn't stop because he was locked up. Them putting the scarlet robe on him, putting the purple robe on him. The people screaming out, crucify him, give us Barabbas, give us the murderer, fulfilling the book. The word didn't stop. The word continually going to be preached. They didn't even miss it. Him carrying the stake on his shoulder. They ain't realized Ezekiel told you about it. You know what I'm saying? Jacob prophesied about it. Samson did it. The word didn't stop. So you can sit back and look at it just because if you may be locked up for the word or you may be killed for the word, that don't stop nothing. He said, man, just sit back, man. We give you white robes. He told you got to rest a little season. So the rest of your servants and your fellow servants, the prophets and your brethren, be killed in like manner as you are. Because you will be hated for the word of Elohim. Because as we already read, they don't know your Elohim. They don't know who sent you. They don't know who's called you by his mighty and Kadesh name. So therefore, because they hate him, they will hate you. And you not realizing that is a blessing upon your head if these people hate you. Because that means you're standing upon Mount Gerizzim, the mountain of the blessing, when he told the people to take heed and wrote all the words on 2 tables of stone and told the people to take heed. This day you'll become the people of Elohim. You're not sitting back realizing when you're hated, you become the people of Elohim. You're not realizing when the thanks is in your mouth because you have came outside the camp to bear this man reproach because you were hated. Because you bear that reproach to come outside the camp to be under with Yahusha, that means you join to him because you Levi. So then when you turn around and you look at that, then you turn around and look at that. Now here come Issachar. Elohim can give me my payment. Why can Elohim give me my payment? Because my sins have been removed. Elohim has taken away my reproach because I was hated, because I joined myself to him. And then because of that, he can make you his son and sit you on his right hand. All because you went upon the mountain of cutting off to descend into the grave, but to come up out of the grave to reign with your Elohim. That's what we have to sit back and look at. That's the objective. Acts chapter 12, verse 10. He said, when they were past the first and the second ward, they came unto the iron gate that lead unto the city, which opened to them of his own accord. And they went out and passed through one street. And forthwith the Malachim departed from him. And when Peter was come to himself, he said, now. Well, I read it a little too long. Look at about verse 5, though. Or verse 4, though. He said, and when he had apprehended him, he put him into prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Peter therefore was kept in prison, but prayer was made without ceasing of the body unto Elohim for him. And when Herod would have brought him forth the same night, Peter was sleeping between 2 soldiers, bound with 2 chains, and the keepers of the door before the door kept the prison. And behold, the Malachim of Yahuwah came upon him, and a light shined in the prison, and he smote Peter on the side, and raised him up, saying, arise up quickly. And his chains fell off from his hand. Because even though he was put in chains, the word of Elohim ain't going to be stopped. And the Malachim said unto him, gird thyself and bind on thy sandals. And so he did. And he saith unto him, cast thy garment about thee and follow me. And he went out and followed him. And he went out and followed him, and wist not that it was true which was done by the Malachim, but thought he saw a vision. And when they were past the first and the second ward, they came unto the iron gate that lead unto the city, which opened to them of his own accord. And they went out and passed on through one street, and forthwith the Malachim departed from him. I'll drop down probably about verse 13. And as Peter knocked at the door of the gate, a damsel came to hearken named Rhoda. And when she knew Peter's voice, she opened not the gate for gladness, but ran in and told how Peter stood before the gate. And they said unto her, thou art mad. But she constantly affirmed that it was even so. Then they said, it is his Malachim. But Peter continued knocking, and when they had opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. If you want to know why they said it was his Malachim, because you know from Psalm 91, because Satan came up to Hamashiach and tempted him with that. He said he'd have his Malachim, or his angel have charge over thee, concerning thee, that you would have Malachim that would be with you to protect you in the way. This is why she made that statement, or the people made that statement. It's just going back to the law, going back to Psalms 91. They say, you know, he'll give his servants to have charge over you. So that's why they were saying, man, that ain't Peter, man. That's his Malachim. That's the one that got charge over him to protect him. You tripping. But Peter continued knocking, and when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. But he, beckoning unto them with hand to hold their peace, declared unto them how the master had brought him out of prison, and said, go show these things unto James and to the brethren. And he departed and went into another place. So no matter what these people sat back and did, it didn't stop anything. The word ain't going to be stopped because you locked me up, because you put chains on me. Just because these people cast you into prison, that's why he told you to be faithful unto death. He'll give you a crown of life. All you got to do is just keep on going. Y'all feel me? You just got to keep on going. That's all these things are a part of getting the increase. This is all a part about getting your higher, getting the reward. You got to sit back and look at what are you willing to do to get the reward, and do you believe that he will give it to you the same way Hamashiach did, that you will get your higher. So let's look at Acts chapter 26, about verse 15 real fast. He said, but rise and stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness of those things which thou hast seen, and those things in which shall appear unto thee, delivering thee from the people and from the Gentiles unto whom thou hast sent thee, to open their eyes and turn them from darkness to light, and receive, and from the power of Hashatan unto Elohim, that they may receive forgiveness of sins, and inheritance among them which are sanctified by the faith that is in me. So again, the sanctification or the severing. Remember, that's what Moses told the Levites. He that's on your side, guard your sword on your side. Gird your sword on your side. Sever yourself from amongst these people. You're going to have to cut yourself off from them. That's why you say to mortify your members. And sit back and you have to put them gold nails in your hands and in your feet to mortify your members, to kill your flesh, to be cut off. When you cut yourself off from the world and from the flesh, you are different from others. Therefore, you're fulfilling what he's saying, that he gave himself for you to be a peculiar people, passionate to good works. So hold on. Let's look at John chapter 9. Is it John chapter 9? My apologies. It's Luke chapter 5, about verse 18 or 17. And it came to pass on a certain day, as he was teaching, that there were Pharisees and doctors of the Torah sitting by, which would come out of every town of Galilee and Yehudah and Jerusalem, and the power of Yahuwah was present to heal them. And behold, men brought in a bed a man which was taken with the palsy, and they sought means to bring him in and to lay him before him. And when they could not find by what way they might bring him in because of the multitude, they went upon the housetop and let him down through the tiling with his couch in the midst before Yahushua. And when he saw their faith, he said unto him, Man, thy sins are forgiven thee. And the scribes and Pharisees began to reason, saying, Who is this which speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but Elohim alone? But when Yahushua perceived their thoughts, he answered and said unto them, What reason ye in your hearts? Whether it is easier to say, Thy sins be forgiven thee, or to say, Rise up and walk. But that you may know that the Son of Man hath power upon a rats to forgive sins, he said unto the sick of the palsy, I said unto thee, arise, and take up thy couch, and go into thine house. And immediately he rose up before them, and took up that whereon he lay, and departed to his own house, esteeming Elohim. And they were all amazed, and they esteemed Elohim, and they were filled with fear, saying, We have seen strange things today. So you see him turning around, Elohim is taking away my reproach. He just told this man, I forgive you your sin. We read about it last week when we looked at Luke chapter 7. He said, woman, thy faith has saved thee. All because he was willing to do this. But then we're going to turn around and look at this one here, Galatians 3 and 13, just because. This man death, when you sit back and you realize he came up on the stage, say, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. This man getting up there and shedding his blood was for the redemption of your sins. And we'll look at Hebrews 9, go along with that. Hebrews 9 and about 20. Say, Mashiach have redeemed us from the curse of the Torah, being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone that hang on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come unto the Gentiles through Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might receive the promise of the Ruach through faith. So you're sitting back and you're looking at it, because he became a curse, because he became cut off, and went up upon the mountain of being cut off. This was able for you to be able to have your sins forgiven. Therefore, he's Joseph. Elohim is taking away my reproach. Let's turn around and look at that in Hebrews chapter 9, about verse 20. Make it 9 and 18. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. For when Moses had spoken every precept to all the people according to the law, he took the blood of calves and of goats with water and scarlet wool and hyssop, and sprinkled both the book and all the people, saying, This is the blood of the testament which Elohim have adjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. And almost all things about the Torah are purged with blood, and without shedding of blood is no remission. It was therefore necessary that the patterns of the things in Shamayim should be purified with these, but the things, the heavenly things themselves, with better sacrifices than these. For Mashiach is not entered into Kadesh places made with hands, which are the figures of the truth, but unto Shamayim itself, not to appear in the presence of Elohim for us. Nor yet that he should offer himself often as the high priest enter into the Kadesh place every year with blood of others. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now once in the end of the world, he have appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. So you turn around and sitting back looking at when he, and we already read it when we started in Isaiah 53. That man went up there on that stake to bear your sins. This is the blessing on the mountain that means to be cut off when you come on the other side of descending.
Here were some blueberries.
That's what we have to sit back, look at, understand, take and put into our mind. That we could be able to get the blessing when we follow what these tribes, or these tribes that were put up on, these 6 tribes that were put up upon this mountain. If I'm not mistaken, that was 6. Let me count. So somebody be like, that nigga said it was 6 and it ain't 6. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you got these 6 tribes. These 6 tribes put up there on the mountain which was of the blessing, and y'all willing, we'll deal with the mountain that which of the cursing on the morrow, or tomorrow, I should say. So just to sit back and look at it, my mind went in a little different direction what I intended to. That's what we turn around and look at. In order to attain all these blessings, we're going to have to go upon that mountain, and we're going to have to be cut off, and we're going to have to descend into the grave, knowing that when we do these things, we will reign with him, and we will get a full reward. But you're going to have to trust and believe that you're going to get that full reward, and to be willing to endure them things. The last thing we look at is he said he'll be the son of our right hand. I want you to look at Matthew 20 and 20. Then we'll look at Revelation 3 and 8, 16, I suppose. Get ready to wrap it on up, man. It's about 8:30. Matthew 20 and 20. Before we read Revelation 3 and 16, get Acts 7 about 45. Or maybe 50. I'll look and see. 50 sound like about right. It says, Then came to him the mother of Zebedee's children, with her sons worshiping him, and desiring a certain thing of him. And he said unto her, What wilt thou? She saith unto him, Grant that these my 2 sons may sit, the one on thy right hand and the other on thy left in thy kingdom. The Yahushua answered and said, you know not what you ask. Are you able to drink of the cup that I shall drink of, and to be immersed with the immersion that I am immersed with? You drink of that cup, you're going to have to be willing to be cut off. And if you're going to have to be willing to be cut off, you're going to have to be able to descend. And if you're going to be able to descend, then you're going to have to know that you're going to be hated. And in the midst of being hated, you can be joined to Elohim. And when you join the Elohim, you should give praise to Elohim. And while you're giving praise to Elohim, then Elohim will be able to give you your higher. Therefore, your sins can be forgiven. And because your sins can be forgiven, therefore you can sit down at his right hand. But before we get to that, no, I didn't mention something. That just escaped my mind. Wait a second, man. I'm trying to remember what I just had in my head. Come over here to let's go and get this Revelation chapter 3:16. Whatever else it is, it'll come back after a while.
No, it's almost gone. It's gone.
You don't need that.
Said it says, so then because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou say that I am rich and increase with goods and have need of nothing. And know not that thou art wretched, miserable, poor, and blind, and naked. I counsel thee to buy me gold tried in the fire, that thou might be rich, and white raiment, that thou may be clothed, and that the shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thy eyes with eye salve, that thou may see. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock, and if any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him, and I will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcome will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I've also overcome and am sat down with my Father in his throne. That's what it was. Come over here to Acts chapter 7, verse 50. See, you look at Stephen, and Stephen is an example of this. Stephen was hated. We'll sit back and you can show us Stephen was hated, and you can see how he was joined to Elohim, and you turn around and see how he gave praise, so that he might be able to receive his higher, that his sins might be forgiven, that he might sit at the right hand of Elohim. Therefore, he seen the Shiach. Before we even read Acts chapter 7, look at 6 and 6 of Acts chapter 6 and 6. So you could just see that the Ruach was upon him. So you could see that he was joined to Elohim. He said, whom they set before the apostles, and when they had prayed, they laid their hands on them. And the word of Elohim increased, and the number of the disciples multiplied in Jerusalem greatly, and a great company of priests were obedient to the faith. Stephen, full of faith, and Stephen, my apologies, full of faith and power, did great wonders and miracles among the people. Then there arose certain of the synagogue, which is called the synagogue of the Libertines, and the Cyrenes, and the Alexandrians, and them of Sicilian of Asia, disputing with Stephen. And they were not able to resist the wisdom and the Ruach by which he spake. Well, you know if he spake by what Ruach, he spoke by Yahuwah, which we already know. A man says the inspiration is given of the Almighty. He couldn't speak them words unless the Most High gave it to him. Then they suborned men and said, we have heard him speak blasphemous words against Moses and against Elohim. And they stirred up the people, and the elders and the scribes came upon him and called him and brought him to the council, and set up false witnesses which said, this man cease not to speak blasphemous words against this Kadesh place and the Torah. And we have heard him say that this Yahushua of Nazareth shall destroy this place and shall change the customs which Moses delivered us. And all that sat in the council looked steadfastly on him and saw his face as it had been the face of a Malachim. And these people sit back and they hated the man. All he did was just say what the word said, but yet they hated him though. But they
calm down.
Yet they hated him though. And you know why they said he seen his face as a Malachim? Because his face was shining. And you know from Ecclesiastes chapter 8 and verse 1, it say wisdom calls a man's face to shine. So let's look over here to chapter 7. Of the same epistle of Acts, and let's look at Acts of the Apostles. Let's look at verse 51, and let's see what it says. It says, "Ye stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears, ye do always resist the Ruach HaKodesh, as your fathers did, so do ye. And which of the prophets have your fathers not persecuted, and that they have slain, which have showed before the coming of the just one, whom you have been now the betrayers and murderers, who received the Torah by dispensation of Malachim and have not kept it. And when they heard these things, they were cut to the heart, and they gnashed on them with their teeth. But he, being full of the Ruach HaKodesh, looked up steadfastly in the Shamahim and saw the esteem of Elohim and Yahusha standing on the right hand of Elohim. So you turn around and you looking at, in the midst of all of what Stephen going through, he's about to be cut off. But he's about to get a blessing. He's about to be cut off. Obviously, you know, if he filled with the Ruach, he had already cut himself off from sin in the world because he was immersed in the man's name. You turn around and you see that he's being hated. He's filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, so that means he joined to him. In the midst of being joined to him, he's about to give praise to him. And in the midst of giving praise to him, you know, at the time of the resurrection, he shall get his higher and sit on the right hand. Why do you think he even gave him the ability to even see the Son sitting on the right hand? This is your reward for enduring these things. He says, if you shall die with him, you shall live with him. And if you suffer with him, you'll reign with him. You just heard the man say, if you overcome, you'll be sit down in my throne as I'm sat down in my Father's throne. You'll get the same reward. He said in verse 56, and said, behold, I see the Shamahims open and the Son of Man standing on the right hand of Elohim. And they cried out with a loud voice and stopped their ears and ran upon him with one accord and cast him out of the city and stoned him. And the witnesses laid down their clothes at the young man's feet, whose name was Saul. And they stoned Stephen, calling upon Elohim and saying, Master Yahusha, receive my Ruach. And he kneeled down and cried with a loud voice, Master, lay not this sin to their charge. And when he said this, he fell asleep. Even sitting back showing the same pattern that Mashiach said, that your sins might be removed. He was willing to bear that reproach. He was willing to take that. And then ask for those people not to have that sin put on them. The same way Mashiach did. We had to turn around and sit back and look at that. Elohim is just. Yah is just. He'll judge accordingly. He'll do it accordingly. Let's look at Revelation 21 and 7, and we stop right there. And it says, he that overcomes shall inherit all things, because Elohim will give you your hire, and I will be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. Hold on, 1 John 5 and 4. We stop right there. That's a better way to do it. 1 John 5 and 4. For whatsoever is born of Elohim overcome the world. And this is the victory that overcome the world, even our faith. And who is he that overcome the world? But he that believed that Yahusha is the son of Elohim. So praise ye Yah for Yahushua HaMashiach and the word.